Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of Gain and Glow, a healthy lifestyle podcast with me, Vanessa.
And me, Crystal.
This week, I'm excited. I'm excited about this episode. I'm excited because we're going to talk about fitness during lockdown. I'm going to use the proper nomenclature. We're not necessarily quarantined. we're locked down. And lack thereof.
Yes. And I'm just going to get us started with our dope quote of the week. This one comes from Deepak Chopra. No matter how much it gets abused, the body can restore balance. The first rule is to stop interfering with nature. Oh, snap.
Boom. Dope quote. I love that quote for this episode for a couple of reasons. Reason number one is it's very true. Your body can take trauma or stress or, damage, even in the realm of like what happens when you lift weights, and still be able to rebound, as long as we're not forgetting to listen to the natural way of things. As long as we're staying in like focus with how we're naturally supposed to operate, our bodies are amazing. Like, they can bounce back from almost anything, it seems. Can they bounce back from lockdown? Yes.
What's your second reason you love this quote?
The second reason I love this quote is because it also kind of touches on more of a mental kind of aspect in my mind. Like, the physical, like, your body can rebound physically, yes, but also mentally too. Our mind is part of the body, mind, body, health, and we can rebound back as long as we're really listening to ourselves and reconnecting with the natural way of things and naturally allowing ourselves to evolve in the direction that we need to, and organically moving in directions instead of trying to artificially force ourselves into things that don't feel right. And I think during lockdown, that has been like the number one lesson I've learned is be water, essentially like organically move in the direction that you're supposed to. And that's why I'm so excited about this episode, because this episode, I've never been so excited to share my shortcomings.
Same. For real. I'm just gonna let you get started. You're so pumped. I just want to hear it. What's happening?
All right. So leading up to when we first started the podcast, you and I have over the last like 4 or 5 years of our friendship, we've been really in line with how we've been both striving for healthier lives and healthier lifestyles, and in that becoming more fit and healthier physically. And leading up into creating this podcast, I was really excited because you and I were both on a journey that revolved around weight loss, but more so in the general sense of getting fit and stronger. And I was excited because this podcast was like our way of keeping ourselves accountable and working through that, because you can literally spend your whole life focusing on fitness and health, but there's always something new to learn, and there's always like ways and points that you have to keep yourself going. And I was really excited because this podcast was going to like be that thing for us to keep us going and share our experiences with other people, because we're not the only ones going through this. And then the pandemic hit, and it was like a huge wrench in the spokes. And it was like, okay, I spent, 3 months losing like 35 pounds through healthy ways. For the first time probably in my life, I lost so much weight doing healthy things, and most of it was revolving around discovering fitness in a whole new way. And then the pandemic hit, and one of the first things to shut down was my gym. So then I had to modify and start working out at home. And then the second thing to shut down was my whole capacity to keep myself eating healthy. And
Just systems and places shut down.
exactly. So the two things that I was like, oh my gosh, we have this podcast that we're building on, and these are the two things that we can talk about on this podcast, were the two things that were like severely interrupted with the pandemic. And it caused us a little bit of like delay and all this stuff. But now I'm so excited because I failed. I failed miserably at maintaining my fitness regime, and I've failed miserably at eating well. But it's the first time that I failed so miserably and gained weight back where I literally do not, it has no effect on my level of happiness. It's not defining how I feel about myself and how I feel about our podcast. It's the first time that I failed where I'm stoked that I failed because now I can use it as another jumping off point, and I've never looked at it that way. And so that's why I'm excited to like talk about that today. I'm excited to talk about how things like lockdown and a global pandemic will cause you to fail at certain things because it changes the availability of things, it changes everything. But through failure, we develop evolution of who we are. And that is like, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
I love that. I love your energy about it, and like it's true. I believe it. Like you have powered through all these changes, and you like doing everything you've already been doing, and then being like, oh, here's a wrench in all your carefully laid out plans. Now handle it. And it's kind of like, okay, yeah, sure. I'm just going to be real good about that. I'm just going to change it. And you did. Like, you jumped into it. Like, you got yourself a kickboxing bag for your house. You made a little corner space that was just like for your equipment and for you. And you take the time to do that. And then when that wasn't like working out super great, it's like, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to do, I'm not going to tell your whole story because you're going to share it, but you jumped into it. And then it's like, this has continued way longer than I think any of us ever expected. And so you're constantly being challenged to do things that are best for you, but you can't do it in the same way anymore. And I think it's so important that if you consider that you failed at something, that it's like, okay, well, now how are you going to succeed? Because it's like you hit that level where you feel like, oh, I failed. And it's like, okay, well, your life isn't over. So now what? Like, what are you going to work at now? And I've gone through the same thing. I mean, I had gained some weight back, and like I was kind of doing this weird, I think, love-hate thing that we all like to do with diets, where like next week I'm online, and then I would do it for a week, and then the weekend would come or something, and I'd just be like, no, I'm done. Like, it's stressing me out too much. And it's because it's just one stressful thing on top of everything else. And you think that, oh, I could sacrifice this. Like, it doesn't need to be my focus right now. And I've come to a place of balance for myself where I'm like, okay, be honest with yourself. Coffee's making you anxious. Alcohol's making you way too tired. And then you're trying to repair that with coffee, which makes you anxious. So stop it. Just take it easy on yourself. Allow yourself to be sleepy in the morning, and then start your day like on that level, and just promise yourself you're going to start your day a certain way. And that little tiny change for me is what made a difference into like basically kind of maintaining where I'm at. Like, I still have like 30 pounds or ish. I mean, I look great now, but that I honestly, like, I was just telling you off camera that that this is like the weight I haven't been at for like 10 years. So I already feel pretty amazing with my accomplishment, but it's like I'm still not at my goal. But honestly, I have this mindset now that it doesn't matter how long it's going to take me. I know what to do. And if it's slow, at least it's progress.
Right. And I love, like I've probably gained back every single pound that I lost, which in the past would have sent me reeling. And in the past, I've I've had issues with eating disorders and drug use, and I've done a lot of things to lose a lot of weight very quickly, and it's always turned out to be the worst idea. I've gained it back plus some every time, and then obviously spiraled myself into unhealthy habits like connected to it, which we don't need to talk about that. But this is the first time where I've gained pretty much every pound back that I lost. And all it has really shown me is that it's not a big deal, because I'm still celebrating the things that there's other things I've gained that I'm celebrating too more. I'm celebrating more, so like my guns. I'm sorry, but I sold tickets to this show. Okay.
I wish you guys could see her flexing right now.
Yeah, if you could see me, I literally like flexed just because I like to look at my guns.
And she's got guns. She needs permits.
I don't get me in trouble, but I might need to get these babies registered. But we talked about an episode or so ago, we talked about a book, Healthy AF, by Una Duncan. And one of the things she talks about in that book is celebrating your wins more than you put down your failures. And I've really enjoyed this time kind of being forced to get right with my own self. It's like people say they have these come to Jesus moments where and lockdown has put me in a position where I've had to like get right by myself and understand we're human. And first and foremost, weight doesn't define beauty or worth or power. It doesn't matter if you are trying to gain weight and you're having a hard time gaining weight, or if you're trying to lose weight and you're having a hard time losing weight. Your weight doesn't define who you are as a person. I'm the same person I was 35 pounds ago. I'll be the same person I am now in, 35 pounds less in a few months. Like it doesn't matter. But the things that I've gained do define who I am as a person. And I think that that's what's like changed, and I've been forced to get to that point and realize like my biggest failure was I was trying to match my schedule that I had before lockdown to my current life. That automatically, I thought I was setting myself up for success because I was planning ahead and I was keeping myself accountable and I was sticking to my routine and I was building those habits. But in reality, what I was doing is I was setting myself up to fail, because I can't wake up at 5 a.m. and start kickboxing at 6 a.m. just on the mere want. Some mornings, the only reason I went was because I knew I had an entire class. My fellow kickboxers that went to that class, we called ourselves the Sunshine Squad. So I knew that if I wasn't there, at least a few people from Sunshine Squad were going to be like, hey, where were you? There were people that were anticipating my arrival, which kept me accountable on the days where I didn't want to wake up early. I didn't account for that during lockdown. When you're going from your bedroom to your dining room to kickbox, there's nobody waiting for you. And then there was also other obstacles. I mean, I have 2 dogs who, the minute I start kicking my bag or punching the bag, they think that I'm attacking something, and they think that now it's their job to also attack that something. Which I'm like, this bag is far too expensive for you to rip open, so it's not. So there's a lot of obstacles that I wasn't accounting for. And then I realized I was setting myself up to fail because I was holding myself to a standard that was no longer realistic. It's not realistic. Like you said, sometimes when you'd go to the gym, you're like, obviously I have to go. My trainer's waiting for me. Well, what happens when you don't have your trainer waiting for you and you have that day? And then I went to the extreme. I stopped almost everything. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to resign to the idea that I have too many obstacles. So I'm going to be extra gentle with myself. I'm going to be extra sweet to myself and say, don't even worry. We'll kickbox when we feel like it. Like, now I can just kind of do it whenever I want. I don't go to the office. Well, then I set myself in a spiral of like weeks of not doing anything significant as far as fitness goes. And then I reached guilt. And that guilt forced me to push myself to not only start kickboxing every day again, but also do like this butts and guts challenge thing that I got invited to, where it was like squats and burpees and intense hit workouts in addition to the 45-minute hour long kickboxing. And I ended up hurting myself like significantly, where I was like down for a week.
Oh man.
So it was like I the whole journey through all of this fitness and stuff, it made me realize I'm trying to use it as like this tool of like controlling myself or something, when reality I have to understand, like, I'm in lockdown. I need to change. I need to evolve. So now I've started in an effort to repair my back, which is when I hurt myself, I pulled something in my lower back. Well, I also sit all day, so it exacerbated it. I was like, okay, yoga. Let's find a happy medium here. Yoga. So it's really given me the opportunity to go, okay, it's not the weight that I'm upset about. That's not what's frustrating me. It's the fact that I love being active and I love fitness being a part of my life now, and it's something that I'm trying to build my life around, and I have to hold myself appropriately as far as standards and expectations go.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And you hurting your back could have easily have been another like reason in your mind to go, see, this me trying to do this isn't gonna work. And it's like, well, that's not what isn't working. It's like it's just a kink. It's just a kink in the experience. So it's like, okay, what do I do now? And it's so great that you took on yoga too, because it's like kickboxing is very intense. Like you can burn like 700 calories in like 45 minutes. I remember when we went to classes together and you would check your watch to see the calories. You're like, holy cow. And I believe it because you're just drenched. You're just sweating it all out the whole time. And then at the end of class, you're doing push-ups and you're dripping sweat on the mat and you lift your hands up and you're like, oh my gosh. And then I remember they do partner drills at the end of class. And so,
Yep.
of course, we were always partners when I went. And I was like, Vanessa, my knees are sweating. I could see.
I've never had my knees, like literally the fronts of my patella, like sweats.
Yeah. It was the first time in my life. I was like, what is happening? Am I okay?
First time I felt, what is it, quote unquote, runner's high? I was like, oh God, am I going to pass out?
What is this rush? Like, how do I keep getting it though? And that was and I think it's great. Like we built those habits for ourselves. So when we started not working out, it wasn't only like, well, I could take it easy on myself because like I don't have to work out every day. But then it was like you missed the guilt that I feel like I would have because I was like, oh, you're not losing weight, you're not doing it. And it's like, no, that guilt was like working out made you feel so good and you miss it and you know that it makes you feel good. So you're like, I need to do this because me not doing it is just making me feel worse. Instead of overthinking and thinking it's another thing I have to do or that you don't have that accountability, which for me is also really huge, just to have somebody expecting you. I mean, you expected me at 6 a.m. sunshine squat, and I'm like, I swear I'm on my way, but I swear, like, it's so hard to get up and go over there. But like once you're there, you're like, all right, I'm in it, and you're motivated because you're running laps around the mat, and it's like you can't be slow because there's someone on your heels, and that kind of engagement is really motivating for both of us. And so it's like I'm so proud of you anyway because you didn't let anything stop you. You know, it's like you went through it. You decided to get back into it. You, even though you say like, you know, you've gained weight back and stuff, like you were going in and out of working out. Like you never just said I'm not doing it and let your bag collect dust. It was like you had phases where you would do it a few days and stuff, and then when you hurt your back, like the fact that you just made that choice to do yoga instead, which it's like when you don't move your body, people worry about atrophy. you should worry about your stiffness in all of your joints, because even like I noticed for myself sitting at this desk all day, I wasn't getting up to go to the bathroom down the hallway or anything, or going to the water cooler, or taking a 10-minute break with my team and walking and stuff. And so I was sitting so much more and just kind of looking at my phone during my breaks, and my bathroom's 5 feet away, and my posture, even when I was watching it, I could feel tension in my neck and in my shoulders, and when I stand up, and my hips and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not that old. I shouldn't feel like I've been like bed rest or something. But when you don't move throughout the day, it's like it really takes a toll on your body. And yoga is just amazing for so many things. It's like it's amazing for your mindset, because you have to be conscious of like every part of your body moving and bending and twisting and stretching, and making sure you're not overstretching, because the whole point is to stretch to make yourself feel better, not to overstretch because you feel like you should be able to touch your toes or whatever. And then that just like that helps with your stress and your mindset. And like doing that movement and making yourself feel better encourages you to continue to do it. And so it's like I've noticed, even when my eating has been garbage, I still try to do some kind of workout, even if it's 10 minutes, like even if it's just a warm up routine of stretching and kind of loosening my muscles, because it makes all the difference in like in your mood and how you handle your day. And I love that we can focus on that and the things that we want to feel, instead of being like, my weight is my issue. Because it's like, if you make yourself happy, like your weight kind of falls in line, you know? So it's like you're having a stressful time, and the things that you choose to do on a daily basis are out of whack than what you were doing, 5 months ago. And you were like drilled into a T 5 months ago. So it's like you should feel fine. Like you should feel fine in the way of like, yeah, I've gained weight, but I already had built all this muscle. And so the second you start working out, it's going to take you so much less time to lose anything you gain. Like you shouldn't even worry about it, you know? Because like the most important thing is like how good you feel, and that's just through doing things that are good for you, like taking the time to stretch, taking the 3 minutes to meditate and stuff. And then all those little things like end up snowballing back into like how like the habits you used to have. And I know for me, like uh I bought I was kind of in panic mode when we were stuck inside, like after like the middle of March, and I think April had passed and May was happening, and I was like, I don't know when we're gonna be able, I can't go back to a gym. I was like, oh, I'm taking this vacation off from the gym. I'm taking a vacation off of worries. Like there's bigger things happening in the world. I'm gonna have some wine. And I totally like just let all my habits kind of go. And but then after a couple months, I felt that I needed to do something for myself to encourage myself not to lose my train of thought on my habits. And so I bought a set of weights. It's like one curling bar with a few different weight plates. And then my roommate had uh, a punching bag, and it had the chain and everything, but it just didn't have a stand. And since we're renting too, I didn't want to put a pole in the wall or something. So I bought a stand, and I was nervous. I was like nervous about spending the money, because now we're in quarantine, and like, what's going to happen next? Like, I want to make sure like our bills are paid for. But I was also like, I'm not paying for a gym membership right now. I'm not really driving anywhere, so I'm saving money on gas. I was like, you can afford this expense. And I made a little spot in a room I have downstairs that doesn't have a whole lot of room, but it's got room. And I set up my station, and I was doing that pretty consistently. And then I stopped. I was like, I'm sad. And then the wine was like, yeah, you are sad. And I was like, well, then more wine. And then after, a little bit of that, it was kind of like, okay, like wine is not helping. And you're punching bag is like, hey, where are you at?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get back into it. And I started doing punching, and I love kickboxing because you just get your heart rate up so fast, and then you punch, and when you punch, you're getting out aggression, like whether or not you feel particularly like angry or anything. And but I was working a lot, and for where we work, we've been getting pretty busy, and some of those times have been caused a lot of stress, which has also thrown us out of whack of our routines because it's a crazy time right now, and then we're needed more than we were needed before, and so sitting at my desk for longer periods of time, also using I love IKEA, but this my desk is not like ergonomically correct. And so I was sitting at a position that was kind of kinking my shoulder, and then I was trying to sit at a better position for my wrist. And I've had issues with overusing my right wrist before because I basically go from key like 10 key to a mouse all day with my right hand, and I messed with my carpal tunnel. And then I kind of kinked my shoulder because I was holding my arm up and out all day instead of sitting in a better position. So I bought a pad for my chair to kind of raise me up a little bit and so like not feel like I'm sitting on the freaking concrete or something because this office chair is not great. But I really messed with my carpal tunnel, and once that happens, that's really was my switch for my food. And I didn't want to switch my food. I was like, enjoy your weekends, be mild through the week, and then, just take it easy on yourself. And then this inflammation in my wrist and my shoulder, I had to make a change. And I was like, okay, no wine, eat some more vegetables, cut back on things that are no good. Like if I had pizza and I was like, oh, I'm just having pizza for dinner, so it's not a big deal. Nope, inflammation. And even when I didn't I could have pizza anytime and not notice inflammation, but if I'm already inflamed, it's just like it's crazy. So it made me feel really down because I'm trying not to use my right arm, which is hard. I'm trying to use my right-handed mouse with my left hand, and I'm trying to keep my arm down as much as possible instead of holding it at the keyboard. And then I can't lift weights. So I'm like, well, I've been kickboxing and occasionally lifting weights over the last couple weeks, and I was feeling good about that, and I wanted to do more, and then I couldn't. I can't lift weights. I can't put myself even in like a push-up or plank position. It's too much strain on my wrist, and if I strain it at all, it just makes it worse for that much longer. So So I felt pretty defeated by that because those were all the things that I felt like were building muscle and using a lot of my energy, and I had to figure out what to do. And then even yoga, I wanted to do yoga, but I couldn't be in a downward dog position. I could only do standing positions.
Yeah, and when you're doing a full yoga flow, it's hard to find one that's only standing.
And so I kind of compromised. I decided I use a Nike Training Club app, which back in the day in March, they had posted that it was free for a few months during, quarantine, and then they officially made it free like forever. So they have like tons of different workouts and warm-ups and stuff. And so there was things I could do, and I would just skip whatever exercise required me to use my arms. And then I started running more and then walking more, which I know I've been talking about walking, but walking kind of started for me as like a relief in my morning to get my day started without trying to lean on coffee and get fresh air and make me think about stuff that's not looking at my phone, which has been really great for my mind. I didn't realize how much I just automatically looked at my phone first thing in the morning. And so I've been trying to walk in the morning for about 50 minutes or so. I mean, it kind of turns out like I basically walk I guess anywhere between 30 minutes and like an hour, and I try to get 3 miles in. So even when I'm going slow, it's probably an 18 or 20-minute mile. And I just go throughout the neighborhood and loop back. And then I've gotten 3 miles in, and I've burned 300 calories, which if I ran, I could burn 300 calories in 30 minutes. like 300 calories, 30 minutes. But it's like, what do you have time for? What does your body feel like? Because listening to what your body needs is more important than trying to hit a calorie burn.
And I think that's like one of the benefits of like fitness during lockdown. It kind of puts you in a position where you're not so much pigeonholing yourself in one realm. It kind of like opens up the world to of all these other ways of staying active and incorporating it into your life. It's like, okay, you can't do push-ups, you can't do burpees, you can't do all of these things that you've come to like rely on almost. It's like we find our cheat sheet when you're first, and I think anybody who hasn't really lived a fit lifestyle and has tried to like create one has experienced where you almost get your cheat sheet of like 5 things that you're like, I know I can do these. I don't hate them that much and they're effective. So then we recycle them, and we do it with food, we do it with workouts, we do it with our routines. We like grasp onto these basic things, and it's important to know that that's just a starting point. And when we have events that come up, whether it be a death in your family or a birth in your family or a move or carpal tunnel, like whatever the event is, we have to be ready to like evolve and transition into a new realm of it. So like you were saying, you've been mentioning walking a lot, but walking's kind of like one of those, like, it's like when I brought up, I think an episode ago, of if someone said that they could give you a magic pill that could keep you young and keep you healthy, would you take it? Well, if you walk for 30 minutes a day, that's like almost like that magic pill, because it doesn't take a lot, but it's so beneficial. And if you're in a point where you can't do other things because of whatever physical or limitation of space, walking is like, oh, it's so easy as a fallback.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you said that, because I know I've just been like going on and on, but I was so excited to see this like another Harvard article about walking versus running, and it's like we all know that running's more impactful on your joints, and you can it's easier to cause injury, which is something that I'm terrified of.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be in recovery mode. I'm recovering my wrist and stuff. And that's enough for me to be, a little sad. But this article was great because I'm just going to read like a brief, like 2 sentence about it and how beneficial it is, because we really like overlook walking. So, walking improves cardiac risk factors such as cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, vascular stiffness, moving those joints, mental stress, and inflammation. If cardiac protection and lower death rate are not enough to get you moving, consider that walking and other moderate exercise programs help protect against dementia, peripheral artery disease, obesity, diabetes, depression, colon cancer, and even erectile dysfunction. Because you gotta get that blood flowing.
Gotta get blood flowing. It's part of the equation. Science.
And it's such like a good wrap up of all the benefits of it.
Yes, and it also, I love that it hammers home. You don't have to all of a sudden be hitting the gym for an hour every day and like doing intense hit workouts to consider getting in a workout. Like, and I think that I almost failed miserably, more so in the realm that I was like, oh, well, there's like 3 things that I like to do, and that's who I am, that's the fitness that I do, and that's what's effective for me, so I'm just going to stick with that. Well, that's not how it works. You have to be able to be flexible and discover new things that can benefit you, and also not discount like working out is also like walking is working out. Working out is so many more things than what we see, like, oh, you have to go to CrossFit. No, you don't. You can literally go for a 30-minute walk, and that counts as working out. And digestion. If you are sitting around most of the day and you're filling a lot of your time eating, or you're not eating so great, like the rest of us probably. I mean, I'm the first one to admit that food is my number one, like, it's my crutch. It's like I emotionally eat. I eat out of boredom. I eat because things taste good. when I was a kid, I did experience a lot of food insecurity, and I was raised like poor, I guess you could say. So I have unhealthy thoughts around like eating. When I move my body, I feel better physically, even if I've eaten garbage kind of through the day. Like yoga and walking can basically restart your digestive system. And if you're experiencing bloating, excess gas, I mean, nobody wants to talk about it, but a lot of the times when you're having some kind of discomfort in your stomach or intestinal area, a lot of it is trapped gas. It's inflammation within the lining of your intestines or your colon. It's your body's struggling to process what you're putting in it, not necessarily because it's just bad food, but also because your body's not getting the blood flow and the oxygen that it needs because of a lack of movement. So if you're feeling like you're gaining weight and your clothes aren't fitting, you could be bloated from excess built up gases, which if you do yoga in the morning or you go for a walk in the morning, it can actually help you kind of relieve that, and you might find that you feel less bloated through the day. And it also promotes drinking water, which also helps with bloating. A lot of the times when I feel like I'm uncomfortable because I'm gaining weight, it's not actually that. I'm uncomfortable physically because my body's not working as well as far as digestion goes. And water and moving are like the magic pill for those.
I'm so glad you said that too, because it's so true. Like I was getting down on myself for doing this whole weight fluctuation, and then once I honed in on drinking more water and eating even just a little bit better, like just eating a tiny bit less. It's like, okay, skip your midnight snacks, skip your alcohol. Fine. I can do that. I felt so much better. Like like my whole body, like any puffiness, any like tightness in my clothes and stuff went away in like a week, because that was mostly my body constantly having to digest and like deal with all the excess sodium and like alcohol and the like digestion is like just constantly be in a state of digesting.
And rounding back to our quote, our dope quote, if we listen to our body and we allow ourselves to connect more with the natural way of things, your body will tell you what it needs. And ultimately what it needs is the basics. It needs water, it needs movement, and it needs nutrition. Those are the basics. So you can overcome any kind of like trauma or damage or stress, the damage that stress is causing, or anxiety or depression. Part of the repairing the body is listening and allowing the natural way to organically evolve into listening to your body and doing what your body is telling you need. And drink water. It's so easy.
Yes, drink all the water.
So I want to end this episode with just reminding everyone that if you failed during lockdown or times of stress or an injury, that's one of the best things, because the most important lessons are learned through failure. Period. Hands down.
Well said.
And that's all I have for you guys today. So, until next time.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.